You know, historically, music games have had a pretty rocky history outside of Japan.
I mean, DDR has always been pretty popular with the anime geek crowd, and a few years back there was that relatively brief success with games like Guitar Hero and Rock Band.
Today I want to discuss a little rhythm game that is beloved by many, but sadly never got the widespread attention that it really deserved. Of course, I'm talking about the one and only Gitaroo Man for the PlayStation 2.
Now, Gitaroo Man was developed by Inis, who've been responsible for the Osu Tatakai Uendan, or Elite Beat Agents games, the LIP series for Xbox 360, and most recently a few iOS and Android titles. The publisher, oddly enough, is Koei, who most people associate with Dynasty Warriors, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and other games along those lines. The game's unique art direction comes from the Japanese artist and poet Nakamura Mitsuru, who goes by the pen name 326. His style is distinct, with characters that have a simple, almost sketchy quality to them. This isn't, however, to say that his artwork is simplistic. His use of color, imaginative designs, and intricacy makes for some wonderfully unique imagery. It's charming, and it suits this particular game perfectly.
Gitaroo Man.
The meat of the game is in story mode, which is broken up into 10 different stages, each with their own unique song and musical style, and most of which will have you face off against an enemy. It plays kinda like a combination rhythm and fighting game. Let me explain. There are two styles of gameplay, playing and dodging. So when you're playing your instrument, called a gitaru, you use the left analog stick to move this arrow and trace a line conveniently referred to as the trace line. You need to stay on the line with the arrow as best you can, and eventually these play indicators called phrase bars will start to appear. You then have to press one of the four main buttons just as the circle in the center of the screen meets the circle or attack point at the start of each phrase bar, and then release it just before it ends. Even with absolute perfect timing, if the arrow is off the trace line, you will miss your notes. A direct hit results in a rating of great, slightly off and it's good, okay if it's even more off, and of course any later and you miss entirely. This can both be incredibly challenging and immensely satisfying once you get the hang of it. Playing your gitaru is used to charge your life bar or power, and attack your enemies. Yeah, in this game you fight with the power of your rock.
It's combat, it's war!
If you successfully play a note, you'll either do damage to your opponent or charge a bit of your power, depending on which phase you're in. Miss a note while attacking, however, and you lose power. Then we come to the dodging mechanic, which simply requires that you press one of the four face buttons as it flies in from the corresponding direction. If you hit your mark, U1 will dodge the attack. With each missed button, you take damage, and once your life bar is drained, you lose, and the stage is over.
Come on, man. What's up with that?
Each level generally has 3 phases, although this can differ depending on the stage. You begin with the charge phase, where you need to play as well as you can to build up your power meter for the battle ahead. Then we move on to the battle phase, where you need to alternate between attacking and dodging in order to take down your foe. And lastly, when you've sufficiently damaged whoever it is you're fighting, and you've reached a certain point in the song, you move on to the final phase. Here you'll have to play a finale to the song in order to finish them off. This can be the most tense portion of the game, because a few missed notes and you can still fail the stage. You can drain your enemy's entire health bar, but you will not finish the level until you've made it through the final portion, so keep that in mind. Finally, once you've completed a stage, you're taken to a scoring screen where the game tallies everything up and gives you a ranking based on your performance. It goes from E rank at the bottom all the way to the coveted S rank, which requires 0 misses. You play as a geeky loser named U1 who lives with his talking dog Puma. The game begins with U1 coming home frustrated and fed up with his treatment at the hands of a local bully named Kazuya. So Puma does what any other super intelligent talking pet would do and hands him a tennis racket so that he can practice air guitar. The gameplay is vaguely explained to him by Puma in a tutorial stage. Damn kid, you're getting some pretty good sound out of that tennis racket. Afterward, U1 is left exhausted and bewildered by the entire ordeal when suddenly a diapered demon busts into his room and threatens to chop him in half. This is Pampus, who plays hard rock with his axe gitaru. He asks U1 point blank if he's Gitaroo Man, which just confuses the poor boy further. Puma then turns into a half-dog, half-amp robot and tosses him the legendary Gitaru. U1 transforms for the first time, still perplexed, and the LSD-fueled showdown begins. Without too much trouble, little demon Pampus is put in his place, and Gitaroo Man absorbs his Gitaru. We then cut to U1 riding an out-of-control hand truck before being stopped by his nemesis Kazuya. He's out and about with Pico, the object of U1's affection. Pico does her best to make U1 feel better about his near-death experience, But of course Kazuya sees this as yet another opportunity to further crush the boy's spirits.
You can't do anything, let alone skateboard. Face it, you'll never succeed. Not in 100 million years.
Not long after that, we're introduced to Flying O and the Little O's. They fight with their synth Gitaru and dance till death rays, which are pretty much exactly what they sound like. This is the game's J-pop stage, which I'm pretty sure is required by law in Japan. U1 of course mops the floor with these UFO sumbitches, but not before being taken for a ride and crash landing in the forest. Oh, and gee, thanks lady! You know, I was only trying to save your life, fight the aliens, you know. We finally get a glimpse of our main antagonist Zoe, the leader of the Gravillions. As you may have guessed, they're the ones who've been harassing U1 up to this point. He has been monitoring the situation from his ominous tower and equally foreboding control room. We then find Puma and U1 sharing a brief moment of exposition in the forest.
You are of the Gitaroo Man bloodline, inheritor of the legendary Gitaroo. If you can collect all of the Gitaros, you'll gain great powers and
Puma!
Then this happens.
I'm gonna get you, Gitaroo Man!
That's it, I'm out of here.
This is
Mojo,
He fights with his trumpet Gitaru and is ready to murder you with funk. God, I love these frogs. After a well-fought battle, U1 takes him down, gets his Gitaru, and Puma turns into a projector. Hopposai here says that U1 will need to travel to planet Gitaru in order to free his people from the evil Gravillions. Eager to answer the call and fulfill his destiny, the two take off in the inexplicable woofer jet. Unbeknownst to them, however, Zoe is well aware of their progress and commands a mechanical shark named Ben K to go take them out. He chases them into this wormhole, which results in a 100% dodging stage where you try not to get mauled by an evil space shark. The two make it through to the other side and land on this really elaborate space station in order to take down Ben K, who has now morphed into a space reggae robot. Let me just repeat that for you one more time. Space reggae robot.
I can have this review right here.
Luckily, Puma is prepared and the woofer jet transforms into the woofer amazing battle robot and a space reggae battle to the death commences. U1 spends most of the battle tricking Ben K and running like a wuss, but in the end he manages to blast him into deep space and absorbs his Gitaru. Zoe finally introduces himself and does the whole bad guy thing, you know the drill.
I am Prince Zoe of the Gravillions. You may hand over your Gitaru to me. That is the legendary last Gitaru I have been searching for all my
Don't give
life.
it to him, you one!
Oh, of course not!
The duo make their way off the space station and then promptly crash land on planet Gitaru because reasons. While attempting to get dry, U1 runs into a girl named Kira. They strike up a conversation and she decides to join him for some campfire snuggle time. The next stage is spent playing romantic music for this girl that he just met and generally acting suave in order to impress her. They both seem to drift off on the beach, but then when U1 wakes up, Puma is missing. So of course U1 promptly freaks out and then falls down a hole. He ends up in an elevator shaft which ascends to reveal that Zoe was behind the dog napping all along. Yeah. Instead of fighting you himself, Zoe presents you with the Sandbone Trio who play themselves like xylophones. The beginning of the stage is entirely dodging until the trio slip up and accidentally free Puma. Then it's time for some kick-ass percussion and Spanish guitar. The villagers are freed, the skeletons are defeated, and it's off to the Great Cathedral. Hey, she's not too bad looking.
Wait, why is her name Gregorio?
The next opponent is Gregorio Siegfried Wilhelm III, whose Gitaru is the cathedral's organ. This stage is gothic metal, complete with creepy choir boys, cherubs, and lots of this.
Beauty is a sin! Oh, God!
After kicking his ass, our heroes show up in Gitaroo Arena for
The ultimate test.
where U1 must fight the planet's mightiest warrior, which turns out to be your snuggle buddy from earlier. U1 understandably has some reservations about fighting her. I mean, he did play one song for her and spend a grand total of maybe 10 minutes conscious in her presence, but it's either rock out or die, so he isn't really given much choice. They fight with all they've got until Gitaroo Man can no longer bring himself to battle his friend.
Why won't you fight?
I can't!
You won! Stand up!
I won't fight you, Kira! The real enemy is Zoe!
Kira is unable to resist the power of his arena rock ballad, and the two jam the fuck out. She then gives him the final Gitaroo, which grants him ultimate power.
It's the best Gitaroo ever!
But Zoe is not going down without a fight. He shows up in badass powered Gitaroo armor and attempts to break U1 once and for all.
There's no future in your dreams, Zoe! All your goons are gone! It's just you!
What did you say, Pooh? You think I can't beat you by myself? You're just a pathetic loser. Always made fun of.
No way!
Always dumb.
Never!
Always running.
No!
Always failing.
No!
Failing all things.
No!
But our hero has gained enough confidence throughout the entire journey and uses his newfound strength to transform into his ultimate angelic form.
You can't!
Because I can!
Because what?
Because...
Say it! Because what?
I can do it! Because... Go you Because I'm Gitaroo!
Damn you!
The final stage is a mid-air heavy metal showdown that takes place all over Planet Gitaroo and beyond. After a fierce battle, Zoe is finally taken down, and the Gravilions are no more.
The legendary Gitaroo.
Puma flies by and catches U1 in the woofer jet, and instead of taking him back to the planet for a victory party and to spend some time with the girl he just completely won over by freeing her and her entire civilization from musical tyranny, he goes full-on doggy cockblock mode and they speed back to Earth. What the hell, man? You're not even gonna let the dude get a kiss after all that?
We're never gonna score! We're never gonna score! We're never gonna score!
That's it, numbnuts!
We then cut to U1 once again strolling down the street where he runs into Pico. But before he can get a word in edgewise, Kazuya comes out of nowhere and tries to give him crap.
Why don't you give it up? You're starting to get on my nerves.
Then he does this.
Come on, Pico. This kid's a loser. He can't do anything. Just quit.
And I have absolutely no idea what the hell that was. But hey, you know, U1 gets the girl, the end. Once you complete story mode, you unlock Master Play, which repeats the same story and stages but makes it a lot more difficult. These stages can be brutal. but it goes a long way towards building the excellent replay value that this game has. There's also the oft-overlooked multiplayer component, which allows for up to 4 players at once. You can go 1-on-1, 2-on-1, or have a full 2-on-2 versus match. 7 of the 10 songs are available here, but they've been altered slightly so that they better fit a multiplayer dynamic. They even created alternate final phases depending on who wins the match. You unlock alternate characters by playing and beating story mode, so if you wanted to have a Puma v Pampas match, hey, that can be a thing. Sadly, there's only one stage to play on.
Boo!
But hey, it's pretty great for what it is, even if it is rare to find people who are good enough at Gitaroo Man to make it worthwhile. As for the game's flaws, well, for one, the story is silly as hell, but it never really takes itself all that seriously. And while the graphics are fun, colorful, and fitting, sometimes the stuff happening in the background can be a touch distracting. You also can't pause in the middle of a stage. If you press the start button at any time while playing, you have the option to either restart the level or go back to the main menu. The dub is also a bit of a mixed bag. The actual translation is spot on from the Japanese version, and it's one of the only games in which I've ever heard anyone properly pronounce Kazuya, but some of the acting can feel a bit like amateur hour.
What are you doing? Practicing your skateboarding moves?
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
But the game is just so eminently likable, and the soundtrack is one of the best in gaming. The gameplay is unique and challenging, but it always feels fair, even when it's kicking your ass. And when you've got the hang of it and you're on a roll, it's satisfying in a way that very few games can duplicate.
And you know, it's not just a great music game, but it is easily one of my favorite games of all time. It's still kinda hard to put into words how much this game really means to me, but after nearly 15 years, it's still every bit as magical as when I first fell in love with it.
Due to poor sales because of both limited marketing and how niche the game really is, Koei just couldn't justify a follow-up. In 2006, however, they announced an enhanced PSP port released as Gitaroo Man Live in Japan and Gitaroo Man Lives in North America and Europe. This is a fairly direct port of the game, but with a few changes and updates. First of all, the graphics are largely the same, but the texture quality is much lower, and the game runs at around 30 frames per second as opposed to the PS2's 60, which makes it a little bit harder to play as well. The difficulty was lowered due to the PSP's nub not being quite as good as the DualShock's analog stick. This isn't to say it's easy, just a touch more forgiving. They've also fixed the pausing issue, and you can now pause and unpause to your heart's content. And finally, they added a multiplayer mode called Duet Play. Think of it like this game's co-op mode. And it comes with 2 brand new exclusive songs. But they're the only 2 songs you can play in this mode. And while they're good, they're still not quite up to the quality of the rest of the soundtrack. I mean, what the hell is this guy even singing?
So, which version holds up best? Well, if you're looking to play Gitaroo Man, and you should be, the PS2 game really is your best option. It'll run you around 50 or 60 bucks nowadays. And that's the last we've heard from the series. It has been almost 10 years since the PSP port came out, and fans still mourn the sequel that never was, but really should have been. And you know it'll probably never happen at this point, but as long as my thumbs still work, I will never give up hope. See you next time.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out this video. I know it's been a long time coming, and really thanks for being so patient. Please share it with absolutely everyone that you can. You know, getting the word out about my content is immensely helpful. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out my other videos and chat me up on Twitter or my Facebook page. There is more to come, and very, very soon.